In an ancient African village called Okponkun, renowned for her green vegetation, laughter echoed through the market square as villagers gathered around a peculiar figure, Akrendo, the humorous beggar. He went around the village, making everyone happy. He had unique ways of making even the saddest hearts chuckle. Akrendo! Someone cried out from the crowd. The measure you give is the measure you get. Akrendo responded in a loud voice before bowing dramatically. It was a very funny scene, and so the crowd erupted in laughter, making the arena to be filled with excitement. Akrendo had a special way of begging. He never whined or pleaded. Instead, he told jokes and performed exaggerated dances. Even those who had no intention of giving him alms found themselves tossing coins into his bowl, charmed by his beautiful style of begging. Among those who admired Akrendo was a rich and powerful man named Obiendun. Unlike many rich men who looked down on beggars, Obiendun saw Akrendo as a source of joy to him and his family. Every time the beggar visited, Obiendun would welcome him with a hearty laugh and shower him with food and money. Every day, Akrendo had different jokes that always made Obiendun very happy. It was the annual Yam Festival, an event so grand that even the birds perched on trees just to get a glimpse of the entertainment. That day, the air was thick with the aroma of different kinds of delicious meals, roasted goat meat, peppered fish, and fried plantains, making stomachs grumble long before the feasting ever began. At the center of the village square stood a table occupied by the elders and chiefs of Okponkun. They were eating and drinking in exciting manners that befit the festival, but something was missing. The village drummer who was to entertain everyone was nowhere to be found, and so there was no music in the festival. Whispers spread through the crowd. After waiting for hours and the drummer was still not available, the king decided to dismiss the gathering. My people, since the drummer had failed to show up, the king said before a loud voice rang through the crowd, fear not, my king, entertainment is here. The villagers looked around and discovered it was Akrendo who had spoken. Since the drummer had decided to play hide and seek, I shall take it upon myself to entertain you all today, Akrendo declared, puffing out his chest. Akrendo! Someone yelled from the crowd. The measure you give is the measure you get, Akrendo responded, and the villagers laughed. My people, have you ever seen a lazy goat? Shouted Akrendo. The crowd chuckled, and then Akrendo continued. No! Well, let me tell you, a lazy goat is the kind that will watch his fellow goats chew cassava all day and say, I will eat later, only to find all the cassava gone. The crowd roared with laughter, and Akrendo saw someone slapped his knee in excitement. Akrendo continued, and let me warn you, if you ever marry a woman from the village of Ukpomi, make sure she does not have a twin sister. Why? Someone shouted. Because after taking too much palm wine, it will be very difficult for you to differentiate your wife from a twin sister. And if you try to do anything funny with a twin sister, you will be fined. The women howled with laughter, nudging their husbands playfully. But Akrendo wasn't done yet. He bent down suddenly and began to dance. He wiggled his waist in a manner that amused the crowd. The crowd roared with laughter. Even the stern village warriors who rarely laughed, clutched their stomachs while laughing that day. And then, without warning, Akrendo jumped up and landed with his stomach on the ground and his legs shaking like a chicken caught in the rain. The villagers lost control of themselves. They fell off their seats, laughing like never before. Even the king's guards were crying from laughter, something they were trained not to do in the public. As the feast continued, Akrendo entertained the villagers in different amusing ways, and they agreed on one thing. Even if the drummer had arrived, he wouldn't have entertained as much as Akrendo did on that day. Many days after the festival, the villagers kept talking about the unforgettable event, not because of the excess food and drinks, but because of Akrendo's beautiful entertainment that day. One night, as the moon hung low and mist blanketed the paths, a stranger arrived in Okponkun. He wore no shoes and he walked with a staff carved with ancient symbol. He didn't speak to anyone. He only walked and watched. He walked into Akrendo's hut and said as soon as he saw the beggar, You are the one who gives joy and carries a burden you do not understand. Me? I'm just a beggar with jokes and a stomach that complains more than a parrot in the rain, Akrendo said, smiling. But the stranger interrupted him. Your words carry weight. Your laughter is a shield. You have been chosen. Chosen for what? Akrendo asked, his voice trembling slightly. The stranger raised his hand. From under his robe, he pulled out an ancient horn and dropped it on the table. There will be a time when the village will be surrounded by sorrow and grief, said the stranger. You must blow this horn when that time comes. Only then will Okponkun be saved. Why me? Asked Akrendo. Only the one with a pure and cheerful heart can perform this task, replied the stranger. Once again, the gods have chosen you. Then, just as mysteriously as he arrived, the man disappeared and Akrendo smiled. Oh, it was just a dream, he said before he looked at the horn. As he was staring at the horn, he became confused and very unsure of exactly what to do next. Suddenly, he said, Hey, you forgot your horn and you never left your address. How do I get it to you? When he realized he was only talking to himself, he said in a loud tone, Okay, I'll keep it safe till you come back for it. Akrendo took the horn and hid it somewhere in the hut. Weeks after the visit of the mysterious stranger, Akrendo decided to pay Obiendo a visit, expecting the usual laughter and gifts. Before he could get there, he saw smoke behind the hut of Shukaka, the richest farmer in Okponkun. Although Shukaka had huge fields of grain and many yams in his barn, he had never given anything to Akrendo before, not even a coin, a gift, or any kind of food. Akrendo, moved by compassion, screamed the moment he saw the smoke. Fire! 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 The villagers came out of their huts and quickly joined hands with Akrendo. They put off the fire before it could extend to other parts of the hut. Shukaka was very excited. He presented a gift of tubers of yam and fruits to Akrendo with a smile on his face. This is my little way of appreciating you, Shukaka said to Akrendo. If not for you, my entire hut would have been razed down by fire. Thank you, Akrendo said with a smile. I didn't do it for any gift. I did it because The measure I give is the measure I'll get. I know, and that's why I'm appreciating you. Chukaka tried to convince Akrendo, but the beggar wasn't ready to be convinced. Don't worry, Ubiedo will give me all I need, Akrendo said, and then walked away. Chukaka was surprised Akrendo could turn down his offer. From that day, he never turned his back against any beggar. That day, Akrendo taught him how to give freely whenever there's need to do so. The next market day, the sun refused to shine, and the birds didn't sing. The villagers woke up with a strange kind of sadness in their hearts, and no one knew exactly why. Babies cried endlessly, ghosts ran in circles, and there was no sound of crickets in Okponkun that day. Indeed, it was a sign that disaster was around the corner. Drought crept into Okponkun, the rivers dried up, and crops started withering. Villagers heard drums beating by themselves in the middle of the night. The chief priest was consulted. He did some incantations, but the situation got worse each day. Akrendo never remembered anything about the mysterious stranger until livestock started dropping dead in Okponkun. He was standing under a tree that morning when he remembered the words of the mysterious stranger. There will come a time when the village will be surrounded by sorrow. You must blow this horn when that time comes. Only then will Okponkun be saved. Immediately he remembered these words. He ran back to his hut and took the horn from where it was hidden. He came out of the hut with so much confidence. He took a position and blew the horn so loud that the entire village could hear. The sound that came out wasn't just a noise. It was like the cry of every soul who had ever suffered in silence, mixed with the thunderous weeping that shook the skies. That moment, the river started flowing again, and the children stopped crying, while the drum beats faded away. That was the day Akrendo saved the entire village with the strength of his pure heart and cheerful personality. When Akrendo arrived at Ubiedo's compound the next day, he clapped his hands and announced, "If laziness had a twin brother, it would be the man who sits in a golden chair all day and still complains about hunger." Ubiedo burst into laughter, tossed him a bag of gold, together with a basket of food, and said, "Thank you for saving the entire village. Indeed, you are a huge blessing to Okponkun. Yes, I did it because the measure I give is the measure I'll get," replied Akrendo. Watching all this from a distance was Olege, Ubiedo's envious neighbor. She was a bitter woman, always frowning at the sight of others receiving good things. She had never given Akrendo a single coin or any kind of food, yet she was filled with jealousy at how much Ubiedo gave him. Why should a mere beggar receive such generosity? She whispered with jealousy. What does he do to deserve it? Her jealousy grew daily until she decided to put an end to it. One afternoon, as Akrendo was leaving Ubiedo's house, he saw Olege at the front of her hut. "Akrendo," she said in a loud voice, "the measure you give is the measure you get." Akrendo replied, bowing. "For all your jokes and tricks, here, take this loaf of bread. It is fresh and warm. Eat, so you can tell more jokes," Olege said, while giving Akrendo the bread. Akrendo was surprised. Olege had never been so nice. She had never given him anything before. But he was a man of gratitude. He accepted the bread, smiled, and then said, "Thank you very much. May the measure you have given be returned to you in full." Later that afternoon, Akrendo sat in a quiet corner, enjoying the breeze, when three young children passed by. They were crying, and their clothes were so dusty, with their faces filled with tears. "What is wrong, little ones?" asked Akrendo. "We are hungry," replied one of the children. "Our mother forgot to give us our food before she left for the market." Akrendo, moved by their plight, smiled and handed them a loaf of bread. "Eat, my children," said Akrendo. "The measure you give is the measure you get." The children devoured the bread eagerly, but minutes later they clutched their stomachs in pain. Their cries pierced the sky and attracted the villagers. "What happened?" people asked. "The beggar gave us bad bread," the children replied while crying. The villagers turned to Akrendo, their cheerful expression replaced with fury. "You poisoned the children," someone accused Akrendo. Before he could defend himself, strong hands grabbed him, dragging him towards the suffering children. He was just smiling because he knew he would never poison anybody. Just then, a woman rushed in, looking so scared. She is the mother of the three children. As soon as Akrendo saw her, his face darkened with shock. "If these children are yours," he said very loud, "then I gave them your bread." The crowd fell silent. The woman was surprised. Then, trembling, Olege stepped forward, her face pale. She realized her own evil had come back to haunt her. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she stammered. "I only wanted to get rid of the beggar. I poisoned the bread." The villagers were all surprised. They couldn't believe their eyes. "You poisoned your own children," Akrendo said. Olege fell to her knees, weeping, but it was too late. The poison was too strong. Her only children, her pride and joy, breathed their last before her eyes. A deafening silence followed, broken only by Olege's weeping. The villagers were furious. "This is beyond wickedness," said one of the elders. "She must not remain with us," said another chief. As punishment, Olege was banished from Okponkun with nothing but the clothes on her back. She wandered into the wilderness, where she lived in regret and suffering for the rest of her days. As the villagers dispersed, Obiendo approached Akrendo and said, "You see, my friend, you have always spoken the truth. The measure you give is the measure you get." Akrendo nodded solemnly and then said, "Some people give with very wicked hearts, without knowing it will come back to them." The crowd burst into laughter once more, reminding them that even in dark moments, humor and truth could never be silenced. The story of Akrendo was shared from generation to generation. It taught the villagers that what you give to others will surely return to you, whether good or bad. It also reminded people that envy leads to destruction, and no kind gesture is ever wasted.